Topping today's news, the Prime Minister speaks on the impact of the U.S. tariffs on the Bahamas. The opposition is critical of the new LNG deal with Focal and Shell. A man shot and killed at a local watering hole on Charles Vincent, and two unions fighting for control at BAIC. This is your Jcn News. I'm Jcn Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. The United States has imposed tariffs on Chinese imports to counter perceived unfair trade practices and boost domestic production in the United States. On Thursday, Prime Minister Philip Davis was questioned on how his government intends to deal with the circumstances that can very well impact the Bahamas.
Well, our response will just, as I've been speaking about how we diversify the source of where we get our products from. So if those ships go into the United States, that is where the tariff will be, or the fee or charge will be laid on the ship that goes in the United States. And it goes in the United States, and if it comes back here, those products that are carried there, it comes back here, of course. So our response to that is to continue our efforts, to continue to diversify the source from which we get our products, and hopefully they could come direct to the Bahamas as opposed to going where it'll cost us much more.
Mr. Davis was also asked if he feels as if CARICOM countries are being forced to change their policies because of the new initiatives and policies that President Donald Trump is now introducing.
We have to always look at most of the Caribbean countries rely on external products. Most of our countries are consumptive in many ways, and hence anything that's happening externally is going to impact them internally. They'll have to adjust, and so we look at each policy of the United States, see how it impacts us, and make the adjustments that's necessary to ensure that we're looking after our people.
Prime Minister Davis's response suggests that regional governments are carefully considering their approach to these challenges, ensuring that their policies align with both domestic interests and international developments. Among those who he thanked, Prime Minister Philip Davis expressed his gratitude to Attorney General Ryan Pinder and his team for the role they played in helping the government reach a storage terminal development and use agreement with New Providence Gas, a subsidiary of Focal Holdings, and an LNG sale and purchase agreement with Shell Global, which will pave the way to revert the turbine engines at Clifton Pier from oil to LNG. Mr. Pinder explains how the deal will work.
Purchaser of the fuel itself, it will be a government-owned special purpose vehicle that will be responsible for purchasing the fuel from Shell and then reselling it to the different power generators. And so we, as you know, we would have signed a PPA with the Focal subsidiary earlier this year. Those engines will be transformed into natural gas to be able to burn natural gas, and also BPL will have engines that will burn natural gas, and so that SPV would on-sell the gas to all of the respective generating entities that are burning gas.
Pinder said the engines at Blue Hills will also be converted to LNG, and the pipelines transporting the LNG will be owned by the government. He noted that all of the environmental impact studies will be completed in relation to the project, where the build-out is expected to be constructed or completed in phases, with the first phase completed by November this year, when they will be using LNG. According to Pinder, the LNG project will save the government millions of dollars.
The consumer. We know that fuel is a pass-through to the consumer on energy generation. Just by phase one, we're looking at a $50 million annual savings in fuel prices to the consumer. By the time we get to phase four, which will be a robust, hopefully a floating storage unit, but that's still in design, we're looking upwards of $180 million a year in annual savings to the consumer, just on fuel pass-through pricing. So that's rather significant. And just imagine the economic opportunities of an extra $180 million a year in the economy of Nassau, being able to be reinvested, being able to create additional opportunities, small businesses being able to have extra disposable income to grow So the economic impact builds on from the savings that we will see, and I think you'll see certainly a dramatic benefit to both the personal consumers but also the business consumers in the country.
LNG releases up to 40% less CO2 carbon dioxide than coal and oil and is considered one of the cleanest sources of fuel on the planet. The official opposition, Free National Movement, is questioning why FOCO is in the mix in this agreement, the LNG agreement. They say it was under the previous F&M administration where they expected to have a deal solely between Shell and the government, and a deal which the jetty and regasification terminals would have been owned and operated by a public entity for the benefit of the Bahamian people. The F&M says instead, while pretending that this is the same deal that was brokered with the F&M, the Davis administration has instead come up with a brand new arrangement bringing in a third party, FOCO, without going through the required transparent bidding process. Another man is dead today due to gun violence. Police say shortly after midnight, a man entered a bar and restaurant on Charles Vincent Street with a gun and fired multiple shots before fleeing the scene in a dark-colored Japanese model vehicle north on Charles Vincent Street. The man who was shot was taken to hospital where he died of his injuries, and he becomes the 19th person killed in the country this year. About 2 weeks ago, an off-duty police officer was stabbed and beaten while trying to break up a fight, also at a business establishment on Charles Vincent Street. However, it is unclear if last night's incident is connected. Police investigations continue. Also, police advised the general public that a 50-year-old male was set to be placed before the magistrate's court today, charged with the offense of murder. This in relation to a fatal stabbing incident that occurred in the East Street South area at a business establishment, a local motel. It was in the early morning hours on Thursday, March 13th, where a male victim was found deceased on a staircase. It was the 18th murder for the year. And finally, in this segment, a major shakeup is taking place in the Bahamas Agricultural and Industrial Corporation Center as a new union has emerged to challenge the existing Bahamas General Workers Union. The newly formed Bahamas Public Sector and Health Professionals Union held a poll on Tuesday and elected LaTonya Simonet as president. Since then, Linda Sands, president of the General Workers Union, says they have filed for an injunction against the Ministry of Labor for allowing what they say is an illegal poll.
This injunction was filed against the minister as she allowed this poll to take place. The Minister of Labor, that is, Pia Glover. We're outraged because some of our members were not allowed to vote. And it's impossible for persons to be paying membership fee and they're not allowed to vote. We haven't heard anything from the Family Islands. Members are calling us to say that they have voted. And they voted for the General Workers Union. So why haven't we heard anything?
Meanwhile, members of the newly formed union maintains that no laws were broken, noting that the pending court ruling will prove this. Simonet provided some insight into the ongoing challenges at BAIC that led to the need for a new union.
Last year sometime we put in for a determination through the Department of Labor, and that determination is based on us having 50+1 of the membership. And so based on that, a poll was held. The poll was held on Tuesday the 18th, and based on that poll, the results are unofficial, but the Bahamas Public Sector and Health Professionals Union came out victoriously in that exercise. However, what is happening on this property is the opposing side is actually trying to circumvent democracy. The opposing side do not want the voice of the people to be heard. The opposing side does not want for the membership who would have called for us to be their union to do our job. This process says line staff are to vote. Now, if management is a part of the process, then the process become illegal. When the circulation went out from the Department of Labor, it was actually put into the newspaper and it was sent to the union, both sides, and it was sent to the employer.
It is unclear when the court ruling on that injunction will be made. You're listening to JCN News. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back following these commercials.